Welcome to the Wonder Garden channel, a place where we share tips to keep your orchids healthy and blooming with vibrant colors. When your orchids have finished blooming like this, don't rush to throw them away. Many people think that once the flowers are gone, the plant has completed its mission, but with proper care, it can not only bloom again, but also grow even stronger than before. At the same time, I'll also share a simple method to make use of orchid flower spikes and stimulate dormant nodes to grow into new baby plants in just a few easy steps. First, once the orchid has finished blooming, we will cut off the old flower spike. This helps the plant stop wasting energy on a spent stem, allowing it to focus its nutrients on recovering and developing its root system. When cutting, use clean and sharp scissors to avoid damaging the plant or causing infections. For orchids grown in moss like this, you should remove all of the old moss. Moss is a very common growing medium in commercial cultivation because of its excellent moisture retention. However, when bringing the plant home, the lighting and airflow conditions are usually different. If you keep the old moss, the roots can easily become suffocated and waterlogged. After removing all the moss, you will be able to see the entire root system of the plant. At this stage, use sterilized pruning scissors to remove all rotten, dried, or damaged roots. Only keep the roots that are firm, light-colored, and healthy. In addition to the English voice, we have now created dubbed voices in French, German, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Japanese, Hindi, and Indonesian to help you understand the content more easily. Listen in your preferred language by opening the video and clicking on Settings, the gear icon, to select the appropriate audio language. After pruning, rinse the orchid thoroughly with clean water to remove any dirt and remaining root debris. To gently treat and disinfect the orchid after root pruning, I use fresh ginger. I slice about 10 grams of fresh ginger. Ginger contains natural compounds such as gingerol and essential oils, which have antibacterial properties, helping to clean the environment around the roots and mildly prevent fungal growth. After slicing, place all the ginger into a clean glass container. Add about 500 milliliters of warm water. Stir well to help release the active compounds more effectively. Then cover and let it steep for about 3 hours. After letting the mixture steep for about 3 hours, use a strainer to carefully remove all the ginger pulp. Make sure to filter it thoroughly so that only the clear liquid remains. This liquid is what we will use, as it contains the beneficial compounds extracted from the ginger, while the leftover pulp is no longer needed. Next, dilute this ginger solution with 1 liter of clean water so that it is gentle enough, helping to avoid irritation to young roots. Then, soak the entire base and root system of the orchid in the diluted ginger solution for about 15 minutes. This step helps clean the cut areas and creates a healthier, more breathable environment for the roots before repotting. After 15 minutes, take the orchid out and let it air dry naturally before proceeding to plant it in a new growing medium. At this point, I use a transparent plastic pot, which allows you to easily monitor the roots and moisture inside. I choose pine bark as the growing medium, a popular option that's well suited for orchids thanks to its excellent aeration and drainage. However, it's important to properly treat the bark before planting. First, place a layer of pine bark at the bottom of the pot to create an airy base for the roots. Then, place a few small pieces of foam under the base of the orchid to improve airflow and keep the root area well ventilated. Next, place the orchid in the center of the pot and gently adjust it so that the base sits right at the surface, not buried too deep. Then, add more pine bark around the plant and gently press it into the gaps between the roots. This helps secure the orchid in place so it stands firmly without damaging the roots. Work slowly and avoid pressing the medium too tightly so the roots have enough space to grow and breathe properly. Which country are you watching this video from? It's wonderful that we can connect with each other from all over the world. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please hit the subscribe button to support me and not miss any orchid care tips. Add a thin layer of moss on top of the pot. This layer helps retain moisture, reduces rapid evaporation, and creates a soft, airy environment for new roots to develop. However, only apply a very thin layer. Avoid covering the entire surface of the pot, as this can suffocate the roots, reduce oxygen, and lead to rot. Finally, I use cinnamon powder to apply to the cut areas to help prevent fungal infection. Place the plant in a cool, well-ventilated area, avoid direct sunlight, and do not water it for 5 days. For the flower spike that was cut earlier, I will reuse it to propagate new baby Phalaenopsis orchid plants. First, cut and keep the sections that still have dormant nodes like this. These nodes have the potential to develop into new orchid plantlets if cared for properly. When cutting, make sure to use a thin, very sharp blade to avoid crushing the ends of the flower spike. If the cut is damaged or uneven, it can create favorable conditions for mold and bacteria to develop. If you want to learn the secret to caring for Phalaenopsis orchids, make sure to watch this video carefully until the end. Your orchids will become strong, grow new roots, and bloom vibrantly all year round. After neatly trimming both ends of the section with the dormant node, I seal the cut ends with candle wax. This helps reduce moisture loss and prevents bacteria from entering, keeping the cutting dry and protected during the propagation process. Finally, gently peel off and remove the thin protective layer covering the dormant node so it can be directly exposed to light and air. With the right conditions, the node will gradually swell and begin developing into a new orchid plantlet. I will soak all of these orchid stem cuttings in the prepared ginger solution for about 10 minutes. This step helps gently clean the cut surfaces, reduce the risk of mold, and create a safer environment before propagation. To propagate these orchid cuttings, I will prepare a plastic container with a lid. Inside, add a layer of clean moss that has been lightly moistened. Make sure it's only slightly damp, not too wet, to prevent waterlogging and rotting. After soaking for 10 minutes, take the orchid cuttings out. Then place them neatly in the moss box, making sure the dormant nodes face upward and are not buried too deep. This allows the nodes to receive light and air, creating ideal conditions for new shoots to develop. Every 3 days, open the lid to check and lightly mist the moss. Only use a fine spray to maintain moisture. Avoid making it too wet, as prolonged high humidity can lead to mold and damage the dormant nodes. After about 2 weeks, the dormant nodes will begin to swell and small shoots will appear. This is a sign that the cuttings are still alive and developing well. At this stage, I continue to maintain stable moisture by misting lightly on a regular basis and ensuring good airflow so the new shoots can develop strong and healthy. After about 3 months, these dormant nodes will have developed into complete young orchid plants with new leaves and roots. At this point, you can separate the plantlets and transfer them into individual pots for further care. I use small pots that are suitable for the size of the young plants. Add a layer of pine bark at the bottom to improve airflow and help the roots breathe better. Cover the top with a thin layer of moss to retain light moisture without suffocating the young roots. Then place the young orchid on top, allowing the roots to settle and adapt naturally. If you want to learn the secret to caring for Phalaenopsis orchids, make sure to watch this video carefully until the end. Your orchids will become strong, grow new roots, and bloom vibrantly all year round. From this point on, you can care for these small orchids as usual. Place them in bright, indirect light, water moderately, and monitor root development. With a bit of patience, they will gradually grow into strong, healthy plants, ready to bloom again in the future. As long as you care for them properly and patiently monitor their growth, the flower spikes will soon bloom again and continue to develop. Even from plants that have finished blooming, or just small stem cuttings, you can fully restore and propagate them into new, healthy, and vibrant orchids. What do you think about this method? Have you ever tried propagating orchids in a similar way? Feel free to share your experience in the comments so everyone can learn together. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss more simple and effective orchid care tips in the next videos.